Hi, everyone. My name is DeMichele. I am the president of the Student Government Association at Frostburg State University. I'm joined today by Dr. Ron Nowaczyk, the president of FSU, and vice president for student affairs, Dr. Artie Travis. We're going to be answering your questions tonight. Our first question says, is school going to close? Lots of students are moving out and parking lots are more and more vacant.
I'll tackle that one, Noah. Thanks for asking. The answer to the first one, is school going to close? The answer is no. Lots of people are moving out. I'm not aware of that. We do know the parking lots are vacant. I heard from a student just the other day that he was able to find a parking spot without too much problem on campus. So that is probably the good news of the semester. I've noticed that campus is probably, and Artie, you may agree, 15 to 20% of what we normally would see on campus. And again, I want to thank the students for complying, wearing masks and on campus. Even if you're 6 feet apart or you're by yourself, if you can wear it when you're walking across campus, it's just, I think it's a good reminder to everybody that everybody's safety is important. But the quick answer is no, we're not closing. And in fact, I've been cautiously optimistic about the first 2 weeks of school. It seems like things have been going smoothly. I know people have had to take a while to figure out how to walk around some of the campus and move from one building to the other, but I've been pleased so far. I thank the students. Artie, I guess you did some traveling over the weekend with the police and felt that campus was in pretty good shape as well.
Campus was pretty quiet over the weekend. We saw a couple of groups of large groups of students, maybe 10 students, but they had their mask on. There were a number of folks off campus when I did the ride along with the police. It was only 1 or 2 areas where we stopped where students were collecting and gathering. Half of them had on masks, but they were very compliant. So it was fun to be able to ride with the police on Friday night. So I got to see some of the students in their real world, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Travis, I think you touched on this one a little bit there. But one student asked, is anything being done to regulate the parties that are happening off campus in any way?
Yeah, I think a lot of students, and I think some of my colleagues are calling me Party Artie Vice President, but I sent a note out to the students on Friday, and I will continue to send it out just to encourage them to stay in groups of, small groups and not to collect and have parties. I think I'll be joining the campus police on some other ride-alongs. Myself, Dr. Graham, and Dean Crow are very vigilant about kind of keep an eye on things with the students. And again, we know it's tough. We know the students want to collect and gather, but we have to also remember that that the guidelines are telling us mask, social distancing, and not in large groups. So I'll be out and about seeing the students on the weekends, but we're doing everything we can to discourage large gatherings and parties.
Okay. In the event that classes were to move all online, would the campus itself close?
I'll tackle that one. If we get to a position where we go completely online, it will be because of the situation on campus or a directive from the governor or from the system that we need to go all online. At that point, we would likely look at whether or not we would close. Close in the sense of shutting down our buildings on campus like we did in April. We would still be open as a university for students to go, take the classes. But I think what we learned in April and March was that there were a number of students who found it difficult to study from home, work from home, and we would try to endeavor to keep residence halls open as much as possible and provide opportunities for students to stay on campus in a safe manner if at all possible. We would only be closing the residence halls if we felt that there was a safety concern or we were directed by either the system or the governor to go ahead and close the residence halls.
Okay, thank you. This one is a non-COVID related question. This student would like to address skating on campus. He says he's willing to go through obstacles to get it permitted on campus, especially during these tough times. We have to remain safe. I believe skating should be an option on campus. I don't believe it's fair to allow biking on campus when it holds just as much of a danger compared to skating. It looks like he would like to start a skate club as well.
I can try to tackle that. My suggestion to that student is to reach out to SGA. I know Ben from SGA has been working on that proposal. He has been refining it, and I have not seen a final copy. Want to just mention again, of course, how dangerous that can be as opposed to biking. But I would reach out to SGA, to Ben. Is it Ben? Yeah, Ben. To try to talk with him about that, and then Mr. Cooper over in the Lane Center. If there is a need to organize any student organization, Mr. Cooper and the Lane Center will be able to help you organize a constitution and get registered as a student organization.
Okay. This one comes back to the parties question. So what if there are parties off campus of more than 10 people? What are the punishments for that? The campus and the city police can issue citations for violation of state directives. They can, as I said, they can issue citations. They can do whatever they need to do to try to get the group to dissipate. And anytime that they are within the jurisdiction of the university, we will be referring those incidents of 10 or more unmasked folks to the student conduct, to the dean of students for conduct matters. But Okay.
we're trying to discourage, unless you are part of a family, you know, you're not invincible, folks. And we want you to be safe, we want you to be smart, and we want you to be well. So, you know, it is tough on everybody to have some of these social gatherings, but just be cautious, because again, as I said in my letter, you don't want to be the one that causes a bunch of clusters and causing the university to shut down, because I think some of our students want to be away from home and back up here and independent. So that independence also means some responsibility. So we're just asking you to be smart and to be safe.
And stay in groups of 10 or less, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right. Why aren't masks with valves banned, seeing as they are shown to be ineffective?
I'll deal with that question. I just looked it up while that question showed up here, and we'll talk with the Allegheny Health Department to find out specifically which masks. I just saw that some are, if they're not protected in some sort, but we'll get information, and then if the recommendation from CDC is not to wear those masks, we will get an announcement out. Thank you for that.
Okay. Is the football season back on?
The answer to that one is no. Right now, the Mountain East Conference has decided, and actually it's Division II as well, all fall sports, especially the high contact sports, will be delayed until the spring semester. So we will not be playing football this fall. They may be practicing with each other, doing practices and things like that. Again, with testing, and there's a protocol from the NCAA, but there will not be any fall sport competitions. The earliest we would see anything would probably be swimming and basketball in November. But even there, I'll tell you that the NCAA is looking at what the situation may be in November and whether we can start then or hold off until the spring. And again, this is assuming the spring is better than the fall. Quite frankly, until we have a vaccine, I'm not as convinced that it's going to be safe around, you know, on campus. I mean, safe in the communities. I will mention, throw a plug in, I keep hearing it's important for people to go ahead and get flu shots. My understanding is flu shots are available now. So you can go to the local pharmacies around town and get a flu shot. That would probably be a smart thing to do. I plan to get one this week.
And the Brady Center president, the Brady Center will be announcing their plans, because they did order some flu shots based on shots from last year. So they're trying to get a public relations campaign to let students know that they also might be able to come over to the Brady Center for flu shots.
Okay, great. If our car gets towed on campus, who do I call and what is the tow lot?
Oh, I don't know that one.
I don't either, Artie.
I would call.
I would guess you probably call the police department? Is
Yeah.
that who you call? Okay.
That's where you pay your tickets. I've had to do a few myself.
Okay.
Oops.
Do you realize how having everyone in Chesapeake within 6 feet without mask on is dangerous? I haven't been in the CAF myself, so I'm not sure what the guidelines are in there.
I'm going to be over there this either tomorrow or Thursday, so I'll check it out and see what it is, because I know Chesapeake does want, Chartwells wants people to maintain the 6 foot distancing. So I will talk with people there and see what the situation is. Again, thanks for raising it with us.
Okay. Approximately how many students, faculty, and staff have tested positive for COVID-19? How many have to test positive before the residence halls will close?
That number, I'm just going on what I remember from last week. I think was 8 total out of all the ones we tested, and 8 that were on campus. I think 4. And Liz, I'm looking at you on the screen to shake yes or no if I'm close in those numbers. But I think 8 tested as a result of our testing. 4 tested positive prior to coming to campus and did not come to campus. Of the 8 that did test, all of them are isolating, either at home or in an area that we have at the Quality Inn. And how many have to test positive before the halls close? That's not an easy, there is no simple number making that work. And that's why we're doing the surveillance testing. And there are a lot of different measures. One of the things we're also monitoring is symptoms and how often people are reporting symptoms, because the symptoms are important as well. So there is no one single number that says, when you hit this number magically, we have to take some action. And again, halls, we're measuring people. We will be testing people, a portion of people living on campus as well as people living off campus.
Okay. What if,
Noah, it's very important once, as the president said, once we start the surveillance testing, it's important that people comply, because it will be random. They'll be notified, but it's important they comply, because we have to get every one of the students and faculty and staff to be able to go in and get tested in order for us to have a better idea of what's going on campus. So, we'll be making some phone calls to folks once we know who those individuals are that have been selected. We'll make some phone calls and encourage them, because again, it's in compliance with the guidelines that we have set on campus. And failure to comply, again, will bring you in front of the student code of conduct and the dean of students, possibly.
okay, sure. What if no one reports the off-campus party? Just last week, there was a college party. I heard about it, but I'm not sure where it was.
Well, on Friday, as I said, there were at least 2 gatherings that could have been defined as a party. It wasn't any loud music. There was a one situation down the road from Highway Pizza that I stopped with the campus police. So I was out with them from 9 o'clock to about 12:30 and going around the area. So there was only 2 areas, and those areas were not any loud music or anything like that. There's people were sitting on the porch, like I said, half were masked, half were not. I approached one student and I just said, you need to put your mask on. He said, why? The governor doesn't tell me to. I said, no, the governor says you have to put on your mask if you're outside and you're in close proximity. So, people know that they can call in to campus police if there are some issues or neighbors that are contiguous to the university to report bad behavior. And we will be following up with bad behavior, because again, it's putting someone else at risk. You can put yourself at risk if you want, but we don't want you putting other people at risk, particularly any of the bobcats that are up here on the mountain.
Okay. Why is my professor allowed to walk around the classroom and get way closer than 6 feet to us? When we asked her not to, her response was, I'm negative. Is this acceptable behavior for your professors?
The answer to that one, no, is no. What I'll do is I will certainly talk with the provost tomorrow morning and ask him to get a note out to faculty. It's important that everybody be protective of each other. And so, yes, we will ask faculty to maintain and honor that 6 foot distance from the students as well. Even though somebody says they tested negative, that was a one-time test. It's a snapshot. Things change. on a regular basis. So that would be one thing that, you know, we'll take care of that tomorrow. Appreciate that being brought to our attention.
Okay. If we are walking alone outside on campus, do we not have to use our mask? But when people walk or approach me, I put it up over my nose and mouth.
Technically, that's fine. I think that that's complying with it. I found it's just easier to wear the mask all the time. Even when I'm walking from the car, it's a good reminder. And I know it's one of those things that it's discomforting. It's not something we like, but I think it's something we're going to be doing for a number of months as we move forward in today's environment. That the masks really are the best protected so far, at least according to the science that's out there. Wearing the mask and social distancing are the things we need to do.
Okay. How are people being chosen for surveillance testing? Is it random?
Yep. And let me also, I think, Noah, there was a question I saw a little while ago too. How many positive tests are to date? First of all, I don't know. I don't know how many positive tests there are to date. Let me answer that question. What I'm seeing is when the information goes out to the website, I'm seeing that information that we report on a weekly basis. Because of HIPAA and FERPA, I'm not privy to the information, nor are a lot of other people. That information is going to the health department and through the Brady Health Center, and they're the ones navigating all of that. So the assumption that the president or the provost or the vice presidents have that information is not true. That information is going to the Brady Health Center. If it's a staff person, if it's the Brady Health Center is contacting the health department. If it's a student, my understanding already is then the Brady Health Center will be in contact with that student as well as the health department. If it's a staff or faculty, it's going to human resources as well as the Allegheny County Health Department. So we're being very conscious of individuals' rights of privacy. So that information, I'm not getting daily reports on things, so I don't know anything more than what people have seen last week. With regard to surveillance testing, we're doing that every 2 weeks, and that will be starting on September 1st, I understand. And again, I know there's been some criticism about what we're saying we're getting results back in 48 hours and number of tests. People need to understand that this is a very fluid situation. This is what we're hearing from our vendors, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're able to always provide that information and then get it to us. We're not trying to hide anything, but we're trying to process information. Once information comes back to us, it's reviewed by either our Brady Health Center director and a physician or a physician's assistant that looks at it to confirm the results of those tests. So there are many eyes in the health professionals are taking a look at it. The way we're doing the surveillance testing is we're going to test somewhere between 200 and 240 every 2 weeks. And what we've done is we're using what's called a stratified random sampling, which means we know what proportion of the campus are staff, what proportion are faculty, what proportion are students living on campus, and what proportion are students living off campus. And so we are testing appropriately, so we're getting the same proportion. So we're not overly testing students, faculty, or staff in the testing. And that's what it means by doing the surveillance testing. And it is random. We put all the names in of everybody that's there, and there's what's called a random number generator, picks the people that'll be there. The thing we are doing is what was called, for those that, since I have taught statistics, I like to talk about this, unfortunately, but we're doing what's called sampling without replacement. So once you're picked, you will not go back into the pool until everybody else has had a chance to be selected as well.
Okay. Can someone have a serious talk to the athletes about putting their mask on as soon as they leave practice? They seem to think that since they don't have to wear it with each other, they never have to wear it.
I have actually had that discussion with the athletic director. I saw some athletes walking to practice this weekend, and yes, once they're on the practice field, it's okay to be without the mask. And he is reinforcing with them that yes, they are supposed to be wearing the mask when they walk off the field. So thank you for that. But I saw it this weekend and sent a note to the athletic director this weekend as well.
All right, great. Is there a way to anonymously report professors for not following CDC guidelines?
I don't know if there's a way to do it anonymously. I do think if you have those questions, the easiest thing is to send it. Trying to think which email. I'm gonna look to my PR people here to see, do we want that to the FSU president, or do we want it to a different? Yes, we want it. Send it to me. I just saw head shakes from our PR person. Just send it to president@frostburg.edu, and we will make sure it gets handled. We will, if you send it, you can strip your name off. That's fine. You can send different things. If not, I will make sure that when it goes forward to the provost, to the academic vice president, we'll make sure your name is off of it.
Okay. Are students informed if there are positive cases in their specific dorms?
That's a question that both of us can answer. The only people that will be contacting individuals that are not tested positive or not symptomatic will be the contact tracers from Allegheny Public Health. So they will be reaching out to anyone that may have been in contact with if a student is found to be positive in the residence hall. So they will be reaching out to the individuals that the person who tested positive has indicated that they have been in close contact or should be notified of their status. So we won't be calling them. It will be the contact tracers from Allegheny Health. Again, to protect their privacy.
Can you explain the rationale behind their surveillance testing occurring 2 weeks and not more frequently?
Yeah, we're working, well, there's two questions here. One, another one about asymptomatic on campus. The surveillance testing for 2 weeks, we've talked to health experts, and this is what has been, we've come up with, and they've said it's acceptable to do it on a 2-week basis. We actually are testing every week because remember, athletes, a group of athletes are being tested every week as well. So we're going to be getting data every week on what's going on campus. It's just that the random selection of staff, faculty, and students will be on a bi-weekly basis rather than every week or more frequently. And with 12 cases, quite frankly, that's well below the state average. It's well below what the county average is currently right now. And so, you know, again, the 12 cases out of 3,000 or whatever it is that were reported last week was a very low number. There was one question, I think, up above, Noah, that I want to make sure we touch on. It said, what if the whole campus is asymptomatic? We would be very unusual, first of all, to be all asymptomatic. The data that I've seen nationally is that about 40% of the people who have the virus are asymptomatic. So we would be a very unusual statistical case if the entire campus had nobody with symptoms, but everybody yet was walking around with the COVID virus. And that's why the surveillance testing is being done, is to pick up instances of asymptomatic individuals. People need to realize too that we are testing symptoms. So if somebody is symptomatic, shows the symptoms, they are being tested on a regular basis at the Brady Health Center. So we're monitoring. If we see an increase in symptomatic cases, we will talk with the health department about what actions we need to take as a university. We're doing this in partnership with the Allegheny Health Department. We're not doing this alone, setting our own standards. The health department is working with us very closely, as they are all of the state schools, working with their local health departments.
Okay. In regards to parties, are you going solely off what you hear, or are you checking the houses that students report? I have reported houses and they are still having parties.
I need to check with campus police or with the dean of students or with Jeff to see what houses are reported. I've noted in the chat that 41 Maple Street and 111 Wood Street are two locations that we will keep we'll keep an eye on. But if they've been reported, I'm certain that the police have followed through on that, as long as they're in the jurisdiction that the Frostburg campus police have authority over.
Okay. Why is a professor allowed to have all of their teaching content through YouTube? He isn't even holding virtual meetings during the time the class was scheduled. Sounds like it's a lot of asynchronous teaching.
Yes, and thanks. No, I see that one. I see the next question too about students taking off their masks in class. And I will report all of that. We'll get that out to the department chairs and again to the provost. I'll get those questions tomorrow to get a reminder. For students to be safe, everybody needs to be for everybody to be safe in the classroom, everybody needs to be wearing a mask. The CDC has put information out there for guidance for institutions of higher education, and they have said that mask wearing and 6-foot distancing, if you do that, you are not considered to be in close contact, and that reduces the risk of anybody having to be isolated if somebody tests positive. So we will make sure that we respond to that. Thank you for those, and I see the one person posted it, identified the course that they're worried about, so we'll make sure we get into that.
Okay. I have a single dorm with a suite mate. If my suite mate is positive, do I have to go into quarantine since we share a toilet and shower?
Well, once again, that is going to be up to the Allegheny County Health Department to make contact with any student who may have been in close proximity or exposing another student to the virus. The students who are tested, who are come back positive, are asked certain questions. They're isolated, and then based on the information that they give, the contact tracers will reach out to whoever needs to be isolated or quarantined.
Okay. Why were the presenters at the Brownsville dedication walking within 2 to 3 feet of each other without masks on?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that happening. I do know the speakers took them off while they spoke. If it happened, it was just inadvertent. We weren't planning on that. People were supposed to be wearing the masks. So again, if we had that happening, I'm apologize for it happening. It wasn't intended.
Okay. Looks like it's a little break in the questions. If any students watching want to keep asking questions, we're still here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Brownsville dedication, Dr. Nowaczyk, and how that went?
Yeah, while we're waiting for questions, yeah. I think I was pleased with the ceremony. I think it was important for the community, and I think in community both in terms of campus as well as I think more importantly for the descendants. You could see a lot of emotion in the part of a number of elderly attendees who are descendants. Either some people actually lived in Brownsville or Park Avenue area, and some were descendants, that is children of the people who lived there originally. I think it's an important event for this campus to recognize those two communities that were lost because of the expansion of the campus. I'm learning more and more on a weekly basis about the changes that this campus made to this entire area. And I think my commitment is, as people heard today when we were talking, that one of the things I want to do is I think it's a static display. It recognizes what those two communities meant to the region and what those people, again, community are people, and what impact it had on those people, the people that live there. But more importantly, I really want to challenge us as an institution to bring that whole area alive. What I would love to have is a situation where, as I mentioned, we have the technology with your phone that you could take a walking virtual tour of those communities and learn more about it through photos as you walk around campus and learn about the communities that were there. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we do have a group that's working on identifying the development of what I hope will be a community cultural center at the location of the Lincoln School that was part of Brownsville.
Great. Looks like we have a few more questions too coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Are housekeeping staff supposed to be cleaning the bathroom stalls daily? Some of the bathrooms are getting disgusting, and it's more of a concern because of COVID.
In the residence halls or in the academic buildings?
I'm not sure. Maybe the residence halls, what they're talking about.
I will follow up with the residence hall folks. The housekeeping staff, they've been pretty on top of things. I will follow up if the person might be able to report which residence hall, I will look into that specifically. Other than that, I will check with our residence life team, because we made a commitment to each of you students in the residence halls that we will do more than just one clean a day, and they will be following up. So we'll follow up. But if you can tell me which hall, we'll follow up directly with that residence hall.
Okay. Are we safe? Some students don't feel safe on campus right now.
As far as I can tell from what we heard from the Allegheny Health Department, the answer is yes. It does not mean that the virus is not on campus. We need to be taking cautions regardless of where we are. The instances of the virus, I think in this region are lower than other parts of the state. But what I keep reading, and I'm just following it, I'm not a epidemiologist, but following the data, testing becomes important. And people showing the right behaviors. I feel safe with people wearing masks and keeping the social distancing. I'm walking campus, so I feel safe on it. I would think at this point, that's the important thing I think to do, but we will continue to monitor.
Okay. When will the new residence hall be named?
Good question. I'll tell you where we are on that. The Board of Regents are taking a look at the naming policies for buildings in the University System of Maryland, and they're considering some changes to the policies. So I'm waiting for them to develop those policies and for them to review those policies before we come forward with the naming of the new residence hall. I'm hoping that the regents will have worked through that either at their September meeting or the one after that, but there are a number of policy changes that they're recommending in the naming, and I would prefer that we wait till the regents have defined any changes in policy, because this is both naming and renaming of buildings. And I would rather have that done before we name the new residence hall.
Okay. Are students allowed to vape on campus since we are a smoke-free campus?
No.
My understanding is no. Is that right? It's no, isn't it?
The answer is no.
Okay. And it looks like the student that asked about the cleaning of bathrooms clarified a little bit. It is the residence halls, and it looks like it is Cumberland Hall.
Okay. Let the student know that I will check on that, but I will check on the cycle of cleaning for all the residence halls. But you said Cumberland, right?
Yep.
Okay.
The single dorms have given opportunities for larger groups to gather in rooms behind closed doors. How are these situations being handled, especially if no one is reporting them?
I need to follow up with the RAs. The RAs and the residence halls, when they're making their rounds, what have you, are supposed to be checking to make sure that there's not a collection of individuals in the public areas that are closer than 6 feet, and numbers of students in the residence hall rooms themselves. I will follow up with the director of Res Life and make sure that we are being vigilant about keeping an eye on any large gatherings.
Okay. Are facilities personnel required to be tested, and are they part of the surveillance testing?
The answer is yes. They are required. And in fact, facilities for a long time, although they're doing the daily symptom testing now, we're also being temperature checked. But yes, they are part of the process.
Okay. One suggestion for the new residence hall is to name it Brownsville.
Yep, we know we had a lot of recommendations from a lot of different groups. As you know, students have come forward, staff and faculty. So appreciate that suggestion. Thank you.
The student wants to know if it is easier to just test the whole campus instead of doing the random surveillance testing.
The answer is no. It's much more difficult testing 3,500 or 3,600 people every 2 weeks than just testing a sample of 200. And again, we're working with the health department on what they feel is an appropriate number for us to test.
Okay. It looks like we're still waiting for some questions to come in.
While we're waiting, I will say one of the things we are monitoring is the effectiveness of the different tests as we keep moving forward. Testing, the different types of tests keep changing, and we're always monitoring the accuracy of those and working with the health department on what are the easiest tests, because I know some of those are pretty uncomfortable for people to experience. And the reason those were uncomfortable is that the tests that are using saliva and so forth were not as effective in identifying the virus. But we're always watching to see what's happening in terms of those numbers in the tests, quality of the tests.
Okay, great. Here's one. Where will the random testing be done?
My understanding is I think it's going to be at the ARMA in the Lane Center is where it's going to be being done.
This student says that the RAs in the new residence hall are not doing their jobs. There is lots of loud blaring music between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m.
Okay. I will check again with Residence Life and implore our staff to follow through on making sure that they're doing their assigned duties and tasks. We don't need any more distractions or to the students, particularly during these times. And you said the new residence hall. Okay.
If you tested everyone at the same time, wouldn't it be more accurate as it doesn't give time for delays in results? Parentheses, times where those who are infected and may not know spread it to others, in parentheses.
There is some research out there suggesting of testing everybody. There is the issues of logistics of making that work and being able to secure enough tests to make that happen. I know some places that are talking about doing, some schools that are talking about doing tests, everybody are looking at different tests than the ones we've been giving, not the PCR tests, but rather the antigen tests. And right now, again, we will watch as changes occur, but we're working right now with what the health department is recommending to us, given the availability of tests that the county is providing.
Okay. And just a clarification, are off-campus students included in the surveillance testing and the symptomatic testing as well?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Symptomatic testing is for anybody who, any student who feels that, who is showing symptoms, they're recommended to contact the Brady Health Center. Yeah. Call them first before you go over, but call the Brady Health Center. What we're telling staff and faculty is that if they have symptoms, they should call their healthcare provider and then to schedule a test. So if anybody is showing symptoms, they should get symptomatic testing. And the off-campus students are included in the surveillance testing. They're considered proportionate to how many they are, how much they make up of the population. So in fact, that will be the largest group being tested because more students live off campus than are either staff, faculty, or students living on campus.
Okay. You touched on this a little bit, said it's kind of an arbitrary number, but if tons of students test positive, will we shut down then? And will the move out, if it is forced to happen, be similar as the move in?
I don't know what tons of students means. I don't know what that number may mean, but if we see an increase, a significant increase in the number of tests, we will talk with the Allegheny Health Department about what actions they feel is appropriate for the university. There's different scenarios. You know, if it was, let's say it's limited to one floor of a residence hall, then it's a very different situation than if we have the same number of cases all off campus or a number of people in one residence hall on different floors. So we will work with the health department if we see an increase and work with them on what they suggest our actions should be.
Okay. Why are students allowed to pile in cars and make group Walmart trips, yet we cannot sit close to them?
I don't know what piling in the cars means, Artie, and again, I hope they're wearing masks if they're traveling, but again, I don't know. I did hear that our students are wearing masks in Walmart, which I'm very pleased to hear, and that's a good sign because residents have raised issues prior to students coming back about concerns about students coming back. Quite frankly, I want to thank our students. I think our students are showing responsible behavior that I've seen walking around town. And I'm glad to see it. I haven't been following the parties quite as much as Vice President Travis evidently will be, or what's going on late at night in some of the residence halls. But I don't know. We can make recommendations to students. Again, be careful. The big risk you run is that if you test positive, the contact tracers are going to ask who you were with, and that can impact other people. If you're maintaining social distancing and wearing a mask, and are not in close contact with people for a long period of time, the risks are less in terms of passing the virus on. Artie, did you want to add anything?
Just want to add once again, we're all responsible adults. You know, we're not invincible. We can get sick, and if you pile inside someone's car that is not part of your family, someone that you certainly know is not positive, you're putting yourself at risk. Decrease the number of folks that are in the car, but also just remember that SGA is sponsoring the Safe Rides. I know this weekend it's in the Frostburg town. I saw 2 or 3 of the Safe Ride vans drop off. There were 2 people in each of the vans. There were 2 vans, and there were 2 people in each of the vans. They dropped them off and waited for them so they can go do their shopping. So take advantage of SGA's willingness to be able to sponsor these Safe Rides, and these Safe Rides are safe because it's just a driver and then 2 riders per ride. And I think SGA has an app that you can order the Safe Ride, correct? No,
yes, it is called the Tap Ride app.
The Tap Ride app.
Are the surveillance tests the same type athletics are taking, as their testing was a different type than the testing students had done at the beginning of the semester?
I think these are different tests, but they all have the same level of accuracy. It depends on the firm we're working with. The county, the test that we'll be giving for surveillance testing was purchased by the county, and they're working with a different vendor than athletics is working with. But my understanding is both are showing accuracy rates of greater than 98% for the tests they're using.
Okay. Can I voluntarily go get tested even if I'm not showing symptoms?
I don't think you can go to Brady. I'm going to look at Artie for this, but my understanding is you have to show symptoms. But I do think if you do want to get a test, you may be able, we could find out, but I think you can go to the hospital or other things and ask for a test. I think they will charge your insurance company for doing the test, but there may be somebody there that'll be willing to give you the test.
All right. What's the policy for using the planetarium? One of my professors wants his classes to meet in the planetarium all at once for 3 hours, even though the rest of the class is online. What if someone isn't comfortable going?
I will send that to the provost. I think the best thing to do is, if you're not comfortable, have a discussion with the faculty, the faculty member in the class first. And then if you feel you need to, you can talk with the dean or the department chair about your concerns that you might have. I think what was most important is that if we're maintaining the 6-foot distances and everybody is wearing masks, the CDC feels that you have very little risk of you contracting the virus in that situation. But I will pass that on again to the provost as well tomorrow.
Okay. I've seen a number of locals walk across campus without masks on. Has there been any sort of notification to the non-campus community to wear masks when they are on campus?
Yes, and we'll try to get that message out again to people that if you're on campus, the expectation is you're doing the same thing students and faculty and staff are doing, which means wearing a mask.
Okay. Are the cars getting cleaned per trip or just at the start of the day and the end of the day? If you are talking about Safe Ride, I can answer that one. Yes, they are being cleaned per trip. In classrooms with the plastic shields in CCIT, students are told it's safe to sit right next to each other because of the shield, but when we are turned towards the whiteboard, there's nothing in between us.
I guess the question there is if it's more than 6 feet, I think the shields are designed if it looks like you can't maintain the 6-foot distance. But we'll check it. If you can send us to me, the CCIT, if there's a particular room that you're looking at, we will look into it to make sure that it is it's in compliance with CDC is recommending. And these are great questions, by the way, from the students. I just need to know the rooms. The more specific, as you're giving information to Vice President Travis as well, the more specific you can be. We will keep things anonymous, but the more specific you can be, the more we can look into these things. We're learning as we're going along with these things as well.
No more current questions right now. Still have about 5 minutes where we're taking questions.
I see a note from, yes, that monitoring, it is important you do the monitoring every day. You check in on the app. I do that first thing in the morning. I know we're sending emails out to people, but the CDC has also recommended that daily symptom monitoring is probably as important as the next most important thing is wearing the mask and keeping the 6 foot. So please continue to do that. And thank you for telling me what's room in the CCIT.
And Noah, can I follow up on the vaping question? I gave half the correct information. We haven't banned the vaping outside of the residence halls. Now, there are certainly in classrooms and in the halls, some of the faculty have in their syllabus. But I'm going to work with Dean Crow and Jeff and Residence Life. Dean Crow and Jeff to look at how we update the policy and pull in the health center as far as vaping is concerned. So it is restricted in the residence halls, but we don't have an outdoor policy, even though it's our understanding that there are fewer vapors than it used to be. So we're going to look at that, and I wanted to make the correction to my earlier response.
Okay. If we see a bear on campus, do we press the blue button, or how do we call that in?
And it's not a stupid question. We know about the bear. And yes, feel free to push the blue button. That's appropriate. You can also call into the police department. Do not approach the bear. We have not gotten the bear registered for classes yet. So until he's wearing a mask, keep 6 feet away from the bear. Now, quite frankly, we do know there are some bears, believe it or not, in the woods near the city pool. And there's woods back there, and there has been a bear. Welcome to Western Maryland. Though every once in a while, the people will post pictures of the bear, but yeah, do not approach it, especially if you see cubs. Do not go near mom. It's not a good thing. But yes, you can certainly push the blue button and call the police. That's the appropriate thing to do.
Okay. How is it that the small breakout rooms, I imagine in CCIT, hold a capacity of 5 when much larger rooms hold a lesser capacity?
They shouldn't be at 5. We'll take a look at the small breakout rooms in CCIT. I think most are designed for 2 or 3 people at most, and asking people to maintain 6 foot. But we'll take a look at that as well.
Okay. Still about 2 more minutes where we're taking questions.
Hey, folks, thank you. These are really good questions.
And no, I wanted to answer one of the questions about how frequent. Now, the residence halls are being cleaned by the janitors and maintenance staff 7 days a week. And in addition, on the weekends, they're doing some extra high-touch cleaning on the weekends. But they're in the residence hall 7 days a week. And a lot of times, people may not see them. But if there are areas that need to be addressed, please let the RA know, let the hall director know if there are some areas of concern. But they're in there 7 days a week. Again, John Brewer and his team, they went through special training over the summer to make sure that they knew how to make sure that there's desanitizing, cleaning, and making sure that we're providing as safe a layer of protection for all the students in the halls as possible and in the academic buildings.
Okay, great. Would the university have survived financially if there had been no in-person classes this semester?
Yes, we would have. It would have been a challenge for us, but yes, we would have survived. I think from my perspective, the important thing is, and again, I appreciate students telling me this past week how glad they were to be back on campus. When I was able to chat with them walking around. This is for the students, and nationally there's a lot of data that's out there, a lot of reports, I should say, coming out now indicating that especially first generation college students are finding being back on campus to be a better environment for them. It's something they wanted to do, but we would have survived financially even if we had gone completely online for the year.
Okay. I've seen a lot of things about this in regards to this question also. WebEx is not working for one of my classes, but works for another one. I have a Chromebook, and the extension that the IT department sent me does not work for me or some others.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that. What I will try to do is get IT to get on that tomorrow and get a response out. Again, if that person who's having problems with it will send that note to president@frostburg.edu, we can actually have IT follow up with you directly to know if it's something unique to you, or if it's a common problem that we need to address through IT across campus.
Okay. And our last question, are the elevators being cleaned and how often?
They are being cleaned. I just don't know how often they're being cleaned, what the thing is. But again, we can find that out and put that in our FAQs through facilities. But I do know they are being cleaned.
Okay. And that is all the questions we have tonight.
Well, I want to thank everybody, and thank you, Noah, again for this. We'll be glad on a bi-weekly basis if you wanted to have these kinds of virtual hours. I think given the level of questions we got about academics, I should invite the provost to join us for these as well if you decide to hold more in the future. But again, I think having these communications is very important. And I want to thank the students. Thank you and the leadership, student government, because the successes we're seeing across the country, it's a team effort. And a lot of the schools that are succeeding are because of strong student leadership and helping make the campuses safe. And we're all in this together. Don't you agree, Artie?
I agree. Go Bobcats.
Well, thank you both. I do appreciate you being here with us. I think if we continue these bi-weekly, like you said, that'd be great. It seems like Tuesday at 4 works pretty well, so students have a rough idea when we might be holding these. And Dr. Mathias would be a great addition as well.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
You. All right. Thank you, Noah.